broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
What's up? Welcome! Okay, sing-along time.
Dub smash later, you guys.
Dub smash later. It's called Aaron Rodgers, right? Welcome to the AFTERBUZZ TV Fear the Walking Dead After Show.
Yes.
Episode 2, which is titled So Close Yet So Far. Welcome to the panel. I'm Ben Bateman, your host today, joined by 3 excellent co-hosts and panelists. And one more on the couch.
Yes.
Yay!
Hey! We'll start with Steven.
Hey guys, I'm Steven. You saw me in the booth last time. I got promoted to the couch. I'm inching ever closer, like we're
so close yet so far.
We're watching It Follows, basically.
Yeah, he's just slowly creeping closer and closer.
Let's hope I don't reach them. You can follow me on Twitter at Stephen Lemieux, and I'm in the chat, so ask any questions. And there's still time to get your iTunes comment read, so go ahead and give us a 5-star review and leave a comment there.
Yeah, Steven told us he was going to be too busy to do the show, but he's inched his way in, which means the show must be really, really good, right?
I enjoy it. I enjoy it more than The Walking Dead.
Oh, interesting.
Ooh,
yeah.
Controversial.
Let's go through the panelists here. We have number 1, Kristin Carole.
Hey guys, I'm Kristin Carole. You can follow me on Twitter at Kristin Carole 13. It's good to be back. Good to have a full panel, you guys.
I know, right?
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm Megan Salinas. You guys can tweet at me at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin.
I like that. How do I follow that up? Hey guys, I'm Ashley Chatman. I have a regular handle, but tweet at me on Twitter at Ashley_Chatman.
And as I said, guys, I am Ben Bateman. You can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter or Instagram. Let's get into today's show, guys.
Let's do it. Let's bite into it, y'all.
Episode 2. So initial thoughts. What do we think? What was everybody's opinion right off the bat?
I like that it was an hour instead of an hour and a half. I think that was good.
Yeah.
That was definitely a good change. Pacing-wise, things are still a little bit slower, and that's just The Walking Dead in general is generally a pretty slow pace. But it was so fascinating to see things really start to fall apart, and it's fun to watch in a weird, kind of messed up kind of way. But it's really cool because we missed all this.
Right.
So it's really nice to actually see the threads of society becoming undone.
Yeah.
Definitely.
This was, it felt like a faster episode, but I think that was just because the first one was an hour and a half. I don't know. I had a little bit of an issue with this episode only because I think a lot of the character choices just didn't quite make the most sense for me, and I just struggled with trying to understand why they were doing something or not doing something. But otherwise, I felt like it was a good start. They're trying to add a little bit more suspense now because I think they know for the first one it was very much information, foundation. We're just setting the tone. So now this is starting to add some colors to it, which is great.
I think what's great about it, and one of my biggest complaints about this episode, as you said, about the characters not making sense, was Madison not telling Alicia about what's going on.
Gosh, what's up with that?
I want to it came to me just a second ago, kind of understanding it. They're creating a great contrast and juxtaposition between society and the family. This family has such a diverse nature and personality that you can really compare it to the society. And if you think about it, she's a guidance counselor, which of course people kind of called us out for last week for not mentioning. She's a guidance counselor. She's going to do what's going to keep people calm. She's going to try to do her best with that. So from her place, she's not telling Alicia because she thinks that's going to put Alicia in a more calm state so she can deal with things. Just like society, if you look at the government, they're not telling people what's going on because they feel like if they tell them what's going on, it'll cause mass hysteria. But it's completely backfiring. We see that with Alicia, and we see that also with society. So I think it's a really interesting dynamic they've created here in the universe.
And it's a good juxtaposition for the last episode because she straight up told other people if something was going on, the authorities would let us know. And now
Exactly.
she's the authority figure, and she's not communicating.
I guess the issue I had with it was at a certain point, you kind of have to let me know what's going on, Mom.
I'm not saying that's the
if
right
I see my
choice.
neighbors are getting eaten on the street, like, I think that's at a point where maybe we need to have a conversation.
Mom, why does Peter have barbecue sauce
Yeah,
all over
exactly.
his face?
Isn't there a lot of parents too out there? I mean, my mom was very honest about everything, but I had a lot of friends and stuff where their parents wouldn't tell them stuff.
They
So
were
I don't think
confused,
it's
right?
necessarily, you know, her keeping it because of one reason or the other. Just sometimes I feel parents are kind of, they take on that role and they go, you know what, you're the kid. And I don't think she doesn't view her daughter yet as somebody who.
But she
both
feels,
of her
but
kids
she
don't
feels
make
she's
right
adult
decisions.
enough to take care of her brother who is like ODing or having, you know, what is he? He's going through withdrawals or
Right,
whatever.
right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're old enough to take care of that by ourselves. But I mean, not old enough, you know. I mean, I don't know.
I feel like
guess it just.
she's gone through the withdrawal things though, because she's like, get the bucket. So
Right, she
they've gone.
knows
It's
what's
kind
up.
of a, you know, it's going on. I don't think she, and also I feel like certain people too. If you say it out loud, then it's
It becomes real.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
Right,
she's
right.
also
So
not
she
only
was bound.
protecting her kids, but protecting herself, because obviously, I mean, she went up to Artie and
Yeah.
she's not believing.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Artie? It's like, no, you saw the guy earlier who got ran down by the car.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. She just is in disbelief and shaken at this point.
Well, I think it's interesting, right? When you think about, like, we're so accustomed to this genre now, right?
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
we're 5 going on 6 seasons of a television show that just has mastered the genre. There's so many movies out there. We're in a different place than we were as a culture than like 6 years ago when we started getting so much of the zombie stuff. Now it's like we're all seasoned vets, right? We know
Yeah.
exactly what to expect. As a lot of people have written in the reviews and complaints of this, it's almost like people are complaining they're too aware of what's going on, far more so than the characters. But you got to remember, if you're in a traumatic situation, you might be the most rational, level-headed person in the world.
But
It
in
doesn't
that
mean you're going to make
situation.
good decisions.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's interesting. Like, it's a funny metaphor, I guess. But I was on my way here last week to do the show, and I got rear-ended on the freeway, which was I wasn't here last week. I was in a situation where I was sitting there, kind of like in shock. You know, I got to make a phone call to figure out what to do, and I was like, geez, like, what if my phone wasn't here?
Yeah.
I was like, and this is just getting rear-ended on the freeway, like
Yeah.
a fender bender, basically. I was like, if power goes out, there's zombies walking around. I have no idea what I would do. If the world's ending, I can't even imagine.
Well, and something we also forget, again, because we're so accustomed to the genre at this point, and we have so much of it, especially in the last few years where it's been really popular, is that this is a world that doesn't have a word for zombie. Where
Yeah.
presumably zombie movies don't exist, because otherwise they would just call them zombies.
Yeah.
So this is a world where Romero presumably doesn't exist, because when people start coming back from the dead, no one knows what to call them. Everybody has a different name for it:
Right.
Walker, Romer,
Or
Biter.
no one knows that these are zombies. Like they're like, wait, why are they getting
Yeah,
up?
it's
You know, what
just
is
the
this?
dead.
Yeah.
It's a universe who has a very lack of originality with their horror creatures. They never came up with the dead coming back to life. I do want to shout out Leah Saxton in the chat. She said if she told her daughter about what was going on, she would have known her boyfriend was going to die.
Right.
And that's
Fair enough.
So that's why she was keeping her calm with that.
You know, one other thing I
Okay.
noticed that I had a thought of, and I do want to get into just sort of breaking the episode down piece by piece, but the thought I had was like, you know, we all grow up, and your parents and your teachers, they're these authoritarian figures, and they're always older, obviously, your parents, and usually your teachers, unless you're like going back to school or something like that. But you expect that people that are in this authoritarian position, they're going to know the answer. Like, they will be able to instruct you on what to do. And I think it was really interesting, like, seeing Kim Dickens, Madison,
yeah.
with Tobias, and they're running around in the school, and thinking to myself, like, there's going to come a day in 15 years when I'm going to still feel like I'm 17 in my mind, but I'm going to be the age of that woman. And, like, you know, she's just a scared person. And he's a kid, but they're in the exact same position. She can't tell him anything. Her daughter's much younger, but she can't tell her daughter. She doesn't know anything. She's just as scared as she is. And I do find that sort of interesting in these stories. Like, and then the zombie thing, obviously, if they were self-aware, then it would just be like Zombieland, basically.
Somebody in the chat's like, is it a copyright issue why they can't call them zombies? Honestly, look at the word zombie. How the hell are you going to get that from dead things walking around, though?
Yeah.
Like, if you never heard that word before, like, how are you going to come up with that? Like, it makes much more sense to be logical, like, roamers, walkers, biters, like, that makes so much more
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah.
Especially when they are erasing everything that we know about that nobody's ever said it. So like they said, I think they just erase it from the, you know, the
Yeah.
complete
Right.
Walking Dead everything.
Except for, what's his face?
Think Tobias? Because
Tobias.
he knows
just
what's
knows
up.
kind of what's
Yeah.
going on.
But he
know.
hasn't said zombie yet.
Yeah, no
So-
one in the Walking Dead universe will ever
Ever say it.
Yeah, no,
they don't
exactly.
know what it is.
They go by Romero rules, though. We know that for a fact, just given what we know about The Walking Dead,
Right.
in terms of you don't have to be bit by a zombie to become a zombie.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it is interesting. Like if you're too derivative of the genre, you become like, if you want to be a smart show, you just become like Zombieland. Like you can, if you're referencing the rules and the zombie handbook that you can buy at the store, you just can't have the show the way that it works.
It seems like like zombie things like these days play it one of two ways. It's either the characters are completely ignorant or they're completely savvy. Yeah. Like if you've seen Paranorman,
right.
They're very like aware of the zombie rules as well, which is a great movie for anybody who hasn't watched it yet. It's awesome.
Yeah, it does. It's like it gets towards comedy if you get to. So let's jump into the episode and kind of talk about piece by piece. And I think there was pretty clearly 3 storylines we were following here.
Yeah.
So the first one I want to talk about is Nick and Alicia. So she is nursing her heroin addicted, going through with withdrawal's brother.
He's gone, baby. He's gone.
Yeah, and it's, you sort of, in some ways, it's like we watched him conquer something last week, right? Because he kills the guy and he does something noble and he saves his family, and now he's home. But you realize he's just about to start going through withdrawals. Yeah. Like the worst part of his life's about to start.
Well, because what's his face? Calvin gave him a hit yesterday,
right?
In previous episode.
Yeah.
So he tided him over until.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What did you guys think of him turning so slowly? Because with Calvin, it seemed almost not instantaneous, but
I mean with Matt.
With Matt, yes.
This is one of the things that a lot of people are confused about with the show. The bites don't turn you into zombies.
They just kill you.
Yeah, the bite causes an infection, and the fever kills you, and then you turn into a zombie, or you turn into a walker.
Thank you for clarifying.
Not necessarily the zombie bite that turns you into a zombie. It's just you dying.
Yeah.
No matter what, you dying, you will come back as a zombie because everybody's infected with whatever it is, and that's why the original show is called The Walking Dead, because the Walking Dead aren't the zombies, it's the people.
Right.
Spoiler.
Because everybody's dead.
You know what I mean? I assume everyone's watched The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and it is interesting. Like that's a great twist on the genre and the realization the characters have both in the comic book series and then also in the show. When that does start to happen, it does change the stakes a little bit. You know, it means like there's like the when he amputates the character's leg and actual Walking
cuts
Dead.
off.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, because I was so surprised by the reaction for last episode, where I actually was totally on Nick's side. I was like, all right, this is a drug addict, whatever, but it's kind of interesting the situation they put him in. A lot of people were saying they don't like the character. They think it's really lame character development. And I'm like, completely the opposite. I think it's very interesting the way they've put him on here. And I think he definitely does have the ability to be a leader later on, not necessarily now.
And this is just episode 2, you know. I mean, I know that it's only 6 episodes in the season, but we still have a lot of story to tell.
Absolutely.
And he has a lot of room to develop. I mean, he obviously can't become Superman overnight and, I kicked my drug addiction and now let me go and kill some walkers, like it has to build a little bit.
Do we think that his addiction, so we all believe that he's going to be in the show. He's not going to be one of the characters that dies in episode 6? What do we think?
It didn't sound like it didn't sound like they were going to kill a lot of the main people right off the bat. I don't think they were going to pull a Walking Dead on us. I think they're going to try to keep these people around, and also it's not as rampant as it is in its predecessor. Yeah. So I think we have the opportunity for them to stay around at least for the first 6 episodes.
Sure. Well,
I mean, there were some predictions last week that one of the big characters would die at the end to kind of prompt a bigger season 2, but I think we'll keep everybody.
Not to make too many comparisons to the original show or to the comics or anything like that, but if you look at the original show, one of the characters who everybody was really surprised at her development was Carole.
Yeah.
You have a character who was, life, just repeatedly kicked her in the face. And, it was this event that allowed her to progress and grow. And it was losing everything that she held dear, that this very meek but in her own way strong person was able to become the person that she is now and develop into the character that she is now. So I kind of see Nick in a very similar situation where he is somebody who's at a very, very low point in his life, and now this catastrophic situation is happening. I feel like this has the potential for him to overcome a lot, not just his drug addiction, but obviously he has a lot of issues with his family. There's a lot for him to overcome, and that is, I feel like that could be a setup for a hero's journey for him.
Maybe. He's definitely a character that has a strong arc, potential arc in place. What do we think about the way that Alicia's handling everything?
I really, besides her hair, I don't like her. We were discussing her hair is perfect.
It was so
her hair was
She could be like in the she's the epitome of Pantene Pro V commercials,
Seriously,
you know.
what is she? I mean, she's cleaning up throw up. It's not even in there. She actually looked better with her hair while she was cleaning
Right.
up after.
This is what happens when you watch with 5 people. You point out a small, simple detail, and it becomes
and
a
you go
running joke for the
crazy,
entire
and you go
episode.
crazy, and we're back.
Like, are those extensions? They're just gorgeous and immaculate.
They'll be gone by the end of the season.
Anything
I'm
negative
sure.
I have about Alicia's character at this point is only because she hasn't been told what's going on.
Yeah.
So I can't necessarily blame her for that because she hasn't been in a position where she realizes what's going on. She doesn't have the full equation to put 2 and 2 together. So I can't hate the character right now.
One thing I will say, I like the moment between her and her boyfriend, you know, when he clearly knew, okay, this is probably going to be the last time they were going to see each other. It's kind of that unspoken tension, unspoken goodbye. But I just sort of liked, you know, you really got a great sense of Alicia, just her capacity to really love people and to really care. And for the whole episode, that was what was on her mind. She just wanted to get back to Matt. I mean, not Matt. She wanted to get back to...
You were right.
Matt. Yeah. She wanted to get back to Matt. And so that was her focus, even a little bit more so than taking care of her brother, who was clearly going through a really serious situation.
And he knew that she would not have left him had he not said, I'll be okay.
Exactly.
Like, I will be
and pretty
fine.
much had to force her out the door. So I thought that was a really interesting moment. One of the reasons why I like this show particularly, I feel like they're diving a lot deeper and just to the more human aspect. Like, how is this affecting people on a very human, psychological, emotional level? You know, versus just beside of the walkers, like we know what the walkers can do. We know how to kill them. That's the suspense, and that's great in The Walking Dead. But I think for this show, it's definitely going to be about, you know, how is this affecting our human nature? What makes us human? What's that line of good versus bad? And how do we make those decisions? And just how do we walk that line? You know,
You're going to
not
hate me
get
for
too-
this, but have we noticed that it took 1.5 episodes to kill all 3 African American actors on this show?
Somebody made a comment about that last week.
This is a problem that Walking Dead has.
Yeah.
Just in general. And
If there's more than
really
2 black people on the show, then
They're
I
like,
have some faith.
We got to take care of that.
But if there's only one left, then you know that they're out. Yeah, safety
Right.
in numbers for.
Especially the males. I mean, the girls
Yeah.
have kind of survived. You got Sonequa and you've got Michonne, and you know on that. But
Oh yeah,
it
no,
seems
they
like
won't
the
be
dudes-
killing Michonne anytime soon.
No.
And
she's a good character.
They darn well better not.
Yeah.
We'll say that.
It is that is funny you'd say that. That's actually so Alicia Debnam Carey, who plays Alicia in the show, she's in another show called The 100 that I also did a show for, and the same deal. They killed the only main black character in the 4th episode of the show.
Stop it, TV.
Yeah.
Stop it. Cut it out.
It's just one of those like things that you just have to point out because everyone's...
Yeah.
Almost like they write it in the contract. So yeah, you know, just go ahead and sign here, and you're gonna get slacked with the
I think there's
machete.
this weird misperception just on, like, in terms of just television, that if you have too many characters of color, that, like, that's going to put people off. No, TV, stop it.
Yeah.
We want to see more diversity. That
Which
would
will be
great.
interesting because this is set in East LA.
Right.
East
Yeah.
LA is a predominantly, multicultural community. So it would be interesting to see like what characters come in and how they try to work
Right.
with that killing them off aspect.
I was gonna say I do think it's interesting that they set this second, like the spin-off in LA, right? So the True Detective season 2 did something similar, right? They took a show that a lot of people loved. They set the second season in a city that now we're all comfortable and familiar with, right? As opposed to Louisiana or Atlanta. All the critics, or the vast majority of the critics that write reviews of these shows, live in the city that this takes place. So the lens through which you're looking at everything is totally different. The locations, the type of people, like everything, the stereotypes. Like this is not the kind of thing where you're like, it's in another place that I haven't spent a lot of time. So if you show me stereotypes, I won't really be able to react in the same way. And I think it's so interesting that in both cases, television's basically 2 most popular shows not named Game of Thrones, both have the follow-up seasons, or spin-offs, whatever you want to call, in Los Angeles.
If I did not live in Los Angeles, I would probably pay a lot more attention to what's going, like what they're writing in.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I'm 10 minutes away. It's like, so what, you're a block away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
45 minutes
scrutinizing
away.
everything.
Yeah,
All the traffic is just laughable because it's just normal
This
traffic.
is everyday traffic.
It's so funny. Yeah, it's just crazy how that worked in both cases,
Yeah, they're acting like this crisis is causing all these cars to be backed up. It's like, no, that's just, trying to get onto the 101.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What do we think the relationship between Nick and Alicia is going to kind of develop into? And I don't mean that in the Game of Thrones way, because I knew Brett. But I mean, she she obviously cares about him, and he obviously cares about her because he doesn't want to put her in danger, but at the same time, she knows that he's at risk of going into a seizure and that, but she's still going to go back to Matt and leave him there.
Well, she's a kid.
She promised her mom.
So let's not forget that, like, her decision to do that and what is... And actually, really quickly on Matt, I just want to add this. I didn't believe, like, he's a kid also. That was an incredibly noble thing to do. You don't think he'd be terrified? I have this fever. I've been bitten by someone. I'm dying. Your father's clearly terrified. Your mom's telling you to get away from me.
I don't think he knows he's dying, and I don't think she thinks he's dying.
I think at a point
I think he has a much better idea.
I think he did. I think it clicked for him at one point.
And we're saying they're kids, but she just got accepted to college. That means she's at least 17, right? That's about the time we start doing it. I mean, when I was 17, I thought I knew everything too, and that's what they're all thinking as well, is they're on this different level. They think they're adults, and you don't know that you're not actually an adult till you're 20 years older.
Exactly.
At that point.
But at the same time, a lack of an experience doesn't mean they're stupid.
No.
They're yes, they are kids, but I mean they are growing up in LA, which is a very different, environment than I grew up in. I didn't grow up in the city. I grew up in a small town. These kids grew up in the city. They probably know a lot more than I did when I was 17.
I think they're really gearing these characters up to be on their own, away from the parents. They've really developed their relationship to the point that they look out for each other, and I could see them surviving if their parents do not. And I think that would be a really interesting dynamic to bring into the show.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Carl, in The Walking Dead. He was a child, much younger than these characters are on this show, and he had to step up and become a man.
A good character,
and they, a good character.
A good character.
And Rick explicitly says, you don't get to have the childhood that I get to have. That's over. You have to become a grown-up and deal with it. Otherwise, you're not going to survive. So, I mean, we haven't gotten to that point yet because the parents obviously don't know what's happening and they haven't had to have that conversation yet. But I think, like Steve mentioned, it definitely is going to be a situation where they are going to have to be on their own. Maybe they'll get separated. Maybe somebody will get turned. We don't know. But, I mean, eventually they are going to have to step into their own, and they're going to have to start, just being more adult and making those decisions, those hard decisions.
And even as, like, brother and sister, right now they're in a place where she very much resents him for the choices that he's made. And he probably feels a tremendous amount of guilt and, like, he's the problem child in comparison to her. She got into Berkeley, and, he's the screw up. He can't do anything right. So in terms of their relationship, he's probably going to be, like, spend a good portion of this show just trying to make it up to her and trying to be a good big brother.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think, if I had to guess, they're going to take 6 episodes to get us to the point that in the other show, Rick wakes up, or close to it. I think we're not going to
He's in a coma right now.
Yeah, I don't think everything's going to really
in La La Land.
go crazy until the end of this first season. I think we'll open next season at a point where these characters have actually experienced a little bit, and they kind of know what's going on. This is the first day, literally the first day. That stuff's really going to hell right now.
And so much has happened already.
Because this is the same morning where the video went viral, right?
Nick killed someone, Madison killed someone.
It's just a lot.
Busy day.
You watch kids and pregnant women get eaten by zombies. It's going to happen. Everybody has to learn. So
you gotta see though, like in that's one person who turned on that video. So many people die every minute in the United States.
Yeah.
So if I snap my fingers, another at least 150 people in the United States just passed away. So if you really think about it, within 3 hours you could have thousands of people already turning into walkers all over the place. And there's no way because nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And I know Ben's itching to go to the next topic, so...
No, I wanted you to hit up iTunes really quick before we move on.
I was segueing into there, Ben,
look
but
at
you disagreed with me. So, guys, one way you can help us out is by going to iTunes, leaving us a review, and leaving us a comment and 5 stars telling us what you think. And if you do that, you get a shout out on the show. So I'm going to give a quick little shout out. Cholo Biafra says, Fear the Walking Dead, says 4 or 5 stars. Good podcast. I can't figure out how the walkers got out of the church. It's not easy to get in. They can't think of that poor motor skills. So the Nick Junkie guy looks like a young Johnny Depp at times. Love the part where the chick says, if there's a problem, the authorities would tell us. Ha! Exactly. Show gets 5 stars by Star-Lord. This after show gets 4 stars, but I tapped 5 for potential. As a true Walking Dead fan, seemingly unlike some of our... No. This new show is a breath of fresh air. Hear me out. I don't want to sound hateful. I just want our hosts to have the same love as me. I think they want to. and I'm really looking forward to much of what they have with the show.
Same love for Walking Dead or just Fear the Walking Dead?
The Fear of the Walking Dead.
Oh, Fear the Walking Dead. I'm like, I was on the panel for Walking Dead, and so was Megan, so we love that show for sure.
Much of the problems we have is that the show is slow, but with the pilot, I mean, that pilot, it was a very slow-paced pilot.
I think any of us said that we hated it.
No, none of us did.
either.
And it was slow compared to the Walking Dead pilot too.
Exactly. Because that was very well paced.
Very
Well,
well
Walking
paced.
Dead has really slow episodes as well.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just, it depends on
There
There are entire half seasons of The Walking Dead where I feel like nothing happens.
There you go.
But I love watching it.
Well, and you love the characters too, because you
Exactly.
know
Yeah.
them after,
And that's why we watch Game of Thrones too.
Character development.
Fear the Walking Dead prediction by Paladin. Just heard the podcast. I'm going to tune in each week to predict the old man in the hospital room with Nick will have something to do with the fall of the hospital. Also, I think Tobias will play a big part throughout the season. My view on your podcast by Brandon64. Fascinating analysis and coverage of the first episode. Awesome group. I can't wait to watch the next episode on TV and listen to your podcast. Good luck, Brennan. A great starting podcast for a great show by Chupacabra's X. I just finished the first podcast and loved it. Excellent takes on what is going on both shows, but you have to focus on this one. Well, of course you do, because this show is great. And just bullet point shout-outs, Hannah, Mr. D-Style, Leah Sexton, Daquan Jenkins, always tuning in, Evan Quintero, Sel Wong. Thank you guys so much for being in the chat.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, really.
Tweet out the link and tag one of us in it. Hashtag fear
ABTV Fear.
ABTV Fear, but also hashtag Fear TWD to get other fans interested. I want to get 100 people in this live chat. It's going to be great, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Good shout out, Steven. That was
No,
great.
well
Way to
done.
handle that, man.
And I love reading all the
At
comments.
record speed.
I read as many as I could on YouTube the other day and tried
Yeah.
to like a lot of people's or comment as well to some of the stuff that they brought up.
Yeah,
which
you
is
guys have
great. I
some
love the
great
conversation.
insight too. A lot of great insight, great comments. I may steal a couple of them.
Yeah, contrary to some like beliefs, as professional TV watchers, we actually adore every single tweet, comment,
Yes,
like
we do.
everything. Like it really is
It helps.
It's all of it. Like the interaction is like basically the whole fun of it. So let's move into the second little whatever you want to call
Plotline,
it,
yeah.
character arc. And this one we'll deal with Liza, Chris, and Travis, who eventually end up in a safe barbershop owned by who do we have? Ophelia, Daniel, and Griselia, whose names I guess maybe we find out that they were
Yeah.
named Daniel, but maybe that's the only name we got.
I think so.
Ophelia was for sure.
She
I saw
introduced
that
herself.
one.
But I
Yeah.
don't think we got the other.
The other one was
two
just
people.
thank my wife.
Right.
And
you, wife.
man, please let us in.
But this particular storyline was very interesting because obviously there's a lot of tension between Travis and his ex-wife.
Right.
And their son, yeah.
And so the fact that they have to come together to find their son, and just kind of seeing their son at a protest, like just kind of given everything that's been going on,
yeah.
in, in recent history, this felt very real and like to the point where it was really hitting, I think, a lot of points really hard.
And how old is he? He's a kid. He's 17, 16?
It's
something
like
like
High
in
school
high school,
age,
yeah.
Yeah.
He looks, I think he's probably maybe a year younger than Alicia.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
something like that, earlier high school than later.
So yeah, he's still living at home and going to school. So
It's a solid age to feel like if you're at a protest and it's for like human rights,
Yeah.
that you should be like, hey, mom and dad, I'm doing something important, and you don't know because you're not young, and I'm doing this, and like that's almost more important than realizing that there's people walking around you that are dead.
But I thought that was interesting. I thought adding that element to it because it is so current, that is going to be something that will make people not focus on the fact that there are zombies walking
Yeah.
around, and the people keep getting shot too. So now you have this riot that ensues because people are like, "You keep shooting and killing people. What's wrong with you?"
To everybody else, it just looks like they're shooting civilians.
That they're just shooting civilians. Exactly.
Anthony Bain in the chat says, feel sorry for Matt's parents. They're in for a surprise when they get home.
Too soon. Too soon.
Low blow.
I did like we learned a little bit more about Liza and Travis's relationship because we talked about that last week where it seems like they're very amicable and then Chris is just pissed off at Travis.
Yeah.
Just, and I'm still kind of wondering
What happened
why
there,
they
yeah.
broke up because Liza made such a big point this episode to explain you only do it 2 weekends a month. That was our agreement. You can't come over. So what exactly did he do there, and why do they? I don't know. It keeps making me curious as to why they have such a terrible relationship. I mean, if my parents called me on the phone, I don't think I've ever press,
Ignore.
I have.
You're only
being
saying that
honest.
because you're on camera, aren't you?
No, I actually don't. You can ask my mom. I talk to her way too much for that kind of, especially when all this weird stuff is going on. I just feel like, in order to do that, and I think a lot of kids probably do, but I'm really interested to see. There's anger there based off of that divorce, and I want to know why.
Well, they're going to show it to us before she dies, and that'll be like episode 4.
No, I think
Definitely
It'll be
gonna
a
die.
very touching.
You really think Liza's going to die?
100%. Like she's in my top 3 that my
Your
predictions.
death pool?
Well, okay, so like I read an article on greenlit.com last week about like what are the odds? Let's take odds on all of the main characters we saw in this
Everybody's
episode.
taking bets.
Yeah, and like obviously some of them, it's unlikely that they would die in the first season anyway. But the first season deaths, I mean, she's like almost for sure. You got to assume Tobias is dead if we see him again.
I mean, that makes sense because that would push the son together with Travis.
Yeah.
That was
Chris and Travis
actually
together,
going
closer.
to be my point. Was if you look at if you wanted to take a step back and look at putting these groups of characters together from a storytelling perspective, why put this guy in the same group as his ex-wife and son? It's not like he spends a good portion of the series trying to get back to them so that he can keep them safe. They are now stuck together.
Yeah.
It's this group of people who have very tenuous, tense relationships with each other. Why put them in the same group together?
Well, I think-
to either come together or be driven apart.
I think next episode we find out why they're mad at each other. It just makes sense if you put them all together and put them in a
of
situation
course.
where they can't leave.
Yeah.
I don't think she's gonna die that quickly though.
Maybe
'Cause
episode 5. It's
maybe,
just,
but killing his mom, killing Chris's mom before him and his dad connect with anything.
Yeah, that's gonna
It would only
bridge
drive them further apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Chris. Well, okay, I don't think Chris is gonna die that fast. But the reason the mom's gonna die.
He's just knocking everybody out. Chris,
Walking Dead,
Liza.
guys. Like, come on, almost
That's true.
everybody dies.
Don't get attached to anybody.
But I mean, the other reason that I think that the wife, that Liza dying makes a lot of sense is because the dynamic chemistry between Madison and Travis, him having to watch his ex-wife die and care about his ex-wife dying, and that the dynamic that's going to create emotionally is super important, and that will make for a very, very tense. I'm just
Or do you think if Chris dies, does that drive the two divorcees together that way?
Chris will die eventually, but not in this season.
He's just knocking them off.
I don't think either of them are going to die. I'm going to put that out there at least
Fair
for
enough.
this season.
I agree. I think the kids are not fair game.
Okay.
I think
Not yet.
If anyone, it'll make a more interesting show if we keep a younger generation around throughout
So
the
the
zombie
older
apocalypse.
folks.
And I think Travis is kind of that martyr. He
Yeah.
seems like that martyr.
He might be. I thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think this season. I think he's
I think this season. Oh, yeah, I think this season.
interesting.
Either him or Madison.
Maybe Tobias. He could possibly be
Well,
one
definitely
of the,
Tobias.
one of the
If-
kids.
I would think it
butter
would be
knife.
hilarious if he turned out to be a lone survivor type.
The only
he
one
would
who
show up like
survived.
Morgan, 2
Right.
seasons down the line.
Him and that butter knife just alone
right.
together. We made it.
So I do want to get into Madison and Tobias and their journey with the principal in a second here, but what I want to talk about really quickly before we move into the next subject is just creatively they obviously assembled the best possible people to head up this show, and so this episode, last episode, and the next are all directed by the same guy, Adam Davidson, I think is his name, and he's a big TV guy. He's got 57 different credits, 3-4 episodes here and there of tons of stuff. I mean, name a show, he's probably done it. My question is, after episode 3, is there going to be a tonal shift because of a director change?
Probably.
Possibly. I mean, we've seen that a lot with keep going back to Walking Dead, of course, but we've seen that a lot with Walking Dead, and even the current Scott Gimple. He was a part of a lot of the big episodes before he was made into the showrunner. So I think that will definitely. It'd be smart of them to kind of play around with it the first season to see, okay, which episodes does the audience respond to and which way should we go? Because even though it is a part of a bigger series to an extent, it still needs to find its own voice. That's another reason why I think us sitting here going, okay, who's going to die next?
Yeah.
I think they don't. I think they're not going to do that. They don't. They even said in interviews and stuff like that. And I went, like I said last week, I went to Comic-Con. Great interviews with the round circle tables that they had, or round tables that they had. Of course, they're circles. They are circles.
Tables are
God,
circles.
I'm sorry,
yes.
you guys. I'm tired. that they even said in there, they're trying to separate it as
Right.
much as
From-
possible.
yeah.
And it's hard to do when you do have that backdrop, but I think they are going to go in a completely different direction with our expectations. Why play on that? Why have us sitting there going,
Yeah.
okay, this person's going to die, and this person's going to die?
To answer your question
Yeah.
with he's doing the first 3 episodes and then are we going to see a tonal shift in the next 3 episodes? I think we have to.
Yeah.
I think you want to be perfectly honest. I think when you have just like the first episode of The Walking Dead, you can't have a second episode that's the same tone as the very first episode of The Walking Dead. It just wouldn't work because it's going from one situation to a completely other situation in one episode. This collectively this season is one episode.
Yeah.
You need one tone and then you need another tone because
Yeah.
it needs to drive the story forward. The problem with a lot of shows these days is they try to keep the same tone too long
Right.
and it just gets totally drawn out and people aren't buying it. I think if we do have since we're having a different director for the second 3 episodes, I think that's a great thing. I think with this you've already had the fall. It's how are they going to get through it?
Well, it's 2 other directors that I think are splitting the final 3.
Even better. I mean,
Yeah,
that's fine.
and with the show, like, again, we have The Walking Dead to refer to and to compare it to. So I think people want to see something different for the Fear of the Walking Dead. They don't want to see the same things over and over because we have over 6 seasons of that
Yeah.
for The Walking Dead. So I mean, as a viewer who's watching it, I want something different.
Yeah.
I want a different tone.
I will say, just in relation to your comment about whether or not it'll change because of the director, I actually disagree with that. Because this is a very cinematic show, and
Yeah.
so many of AMC's shows are very cinematic. But television is a different world than movies, and the director has less sway than you would think. I'm not to diminish them or anything like that. They obviously, a director's work is very important, but it's more in line with the showrunner and what direction they want the show as a whole to go.
Yeah.
And I feel like they have a lot of people to answer to in terms of like the producers
Right.
and showrunners and everything like that. So I don't think that tone-wise it'll shift all that much. I think basically we are just watching the end of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're getting for the next 6 episodes, or
Yeah.
for the next however many episodes
Yeah,
we have.
they've mapped it out already, and they have a very clear vision as to where the show is going to go. But I think
season 2's
people,
already greenlit, yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
but I think that how we get there, they're letting them be a little bit more creative and stylistic with it. But yeah, they already know we're all on the same page. It's,
Yeah.
okay, this is Bora Bora. How we get on to the
Yeah.
plane to Bora Bora, it's up to you.
Television, directors are interchangeable. Again, not to diminish them, but like it's just
No,
a
yeah.
fact of production. You have to have multiple directors to get stuff done.
Yeah.
I don't want to move on from this topic yet because it really was the meat of the episode.
Yeah.
And there's so much at play here. We have the riots going on. We have
Yeah.
how they start, which is through a police officer shooting a homeless person in the face, who is obviously a walker, but nobody knows that. I think it's interesting that Chris is filming. I think this is going to be an interesting thing that they'll bring into the show throughout the season with this character, and it'd be kind of cool to see the final video at the end of the season, and that's how they roll credits, is you're watching the footage that he shot throughout the 6 episodes. I think that
Right.
would be a really cool thing. But you said something that was a joke, Megan, before the show started, but
What did
I actually
say?
Fear the Walking Dead, about the family who will do nothing for the betterment of their neighbors.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious, but at the same time, it's so on point.
Yeah.
We have Travis and Liza and Chris. The only reason they're alive is because of the goodness of other people who brought them into there when there's so many other people around that are being left out while these riots are going on. While at the same time, we have Madison, who knows what's going on. She pulls up to her house. There's a bouncy castle. They're going to throw a party outside in the middle of this, and she doesn't say a thing.
Well, she did end up going to talk to her. When Travis drove away,
Yeah,
we
she
saw
walked
her
across
walk
the street.
over there, and she said, like, hi. And we don't know exactly what she said, so obviously she wasn't too helpful if this person was still outside later on at night and wasn't being careful. But so who knows how she probably sugar-coated it, is my guess.
I think maybe a part of that is just I got the sense, especially from Madison, she was just in disbelief the whole episode. She just could not put her mind and grasp. I mean, even she sees the principal, he's bloody, he looks crazy, and she's like, let me help
Trying
you,
to
you know.
talk to him, yeah.
You know,
she's
trying
still
to help him
reach
down the
him.
stairs,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I think that for her, she was still struggling with believing it. And so if you are already struggling to believe it, how are you going to tell somebody else, you know, this is the truth, this is what's happening? So, I mean, you know, I completely agree with you that, yeah, we got to see a little bit of that ambiguity as far as what's good and what's not so good. But I think for specifically for Travis and Madison, they are just trying to wrap their minds around what's going on, and then they're still one of the few people who know, so they probably think, if I try to tell people about this, they're going to think we're insane. They're not going to believe us. Like, we didn't
'cause
believe
we
Nick in the beginning.
never saw the conversation when she walked
we
across
never
the
saw
street.
it.
So
She
she
could've
might not have just been able to vocalize it. She
Yeah.
might have just been, I hope you have fun at the party.
Hey, those are great tulips. Yeah, great. You did the right.
Well, she also you don't know how much she's seen a few things, right? So she's had to kill with a fire hydrant
She's seen some
or a fire
things.
fire extinguisher.
She's seen some things.
She had to kill someone she knew, and she also watched her son run over another guy she knew. So she's seen what's happened.
Yeah.
But she also doesn't really have any information aside from that. She can say there's people walking around. I think they should be dead, but they're not, and they are trying to attack you and bite you. She can say that to her daughter, but that's not really very well informed. I think more than anything, she's terrified.
Yeah.
She doesn't really know what to do. I did find it surprising that she sees children being attacked across the street and was like, don't go out there.
That's the moment. That is the moment
That's the
where
moment.
it's like, you have officially turned your back on everyone else except your family, and this is the decision that you've made.
Right.
It's so fascinating how quickly they've kind of shown that people look out for themselves more than others.
And it's instinctual, too.
Yeah.
It's instinctual. And this, like, do you think we'll get people teaming up together in this at all? Or do you think it's going to be a lot of betrayal?
Well, people team up by necessity in this show, or historically in this show. But as you said, it's a different show. We do have one more thing we have to talk about. We're a little short on time.
We have time. We can take some extra time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we can take some pictures.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, then let's talk about them getting into the safe house with Ophelia, Daniel, and Gracelia. Daniel, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And just what we think about that, and what's the role that these three characters they've just met are going to play.
It actually reminded me a lot of, not that it's a good movie in comparison to its source material, but has anybody seen World War Z?
Yes.
You know, the only reason Brad Pitt makes it through that entire movie
scarf.
is
Spoiler
because
alert.
of
It's a handsome
luck.
scarf.
Well, for as long as he does, I
H&M, it's like
suppose.
$10.
But just luck and random happenstance, and he just happens to come across the right people at the right time. And there's actually a point where a family lets him into their apartment, and that's what ends up saving the day for a little bit. And that was very reminiscent here because they just happen to be at the right place at the right time with the one family who will probably let them in.
So if a zombie apocalypse happens, go to a barbershop. That's your first line of defense, a barbershop.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that even in light of all the crazy stuff that's happening, that they would walk in and there would be sort of this like macho pissing contest between him and the other dad for just a minute, where there's clearly it's kind of like, you're disrespecting me by walking in here on my family and I'm doing you a solid. But you want him to just be like, look, there's dead people walking around outside. Shut the door. Like,
There's
He did
SWAT
just kind of
teams.
walk to the back, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he did just like walk.
Well, it
Yeah.
was very funny because Travis is like, can we go back there away from the glass window? And the guy was like, no, you stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anything goes through that window, it's hitting you first.
didn't get it at all. Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting because, again, going back to them now all having to just sort of deal with this from just a human standpoint, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more moments where you're not going to know everybody's motives. We know that the walkers are the monsters of the show, but I think what'll be really interesting to see is the real monsters, the people who are still alive, who may seem like they're trying to be helpful and do you that solid, but in actuality, there's a hidden motive. There's something else that's going on there. So, I mean, I completely agree, with the old man. He's like, I don't know you. You could, this could be an ambush. You could come in here and try and murder my whole family. I mean, there's riots going on outside. So I think that's an interesting thing, like they're clashing heads, but I mean, we have to be on guard at this point with everybody, with everything.
And it's day one, right?
Yeah.
So the whole idea that somebody's going to walk in the sensibilities that we've learned from zombie movie and survivors, where you believe that anybody at any time could be trying to like cannibalize you or steal your gas or your food or your water. Nobody's come around to that point yet. That takes you have to experience some tragedy first.
And you should put the kid in the front more too. I feel like he was just blocking the door, like let us in, and then Chris is in the back with Liza, and it's like wait a minute, just use that. That might they're friendlier faces right now.
But for their own argument, it's LA too. People, it's like let's be real. It's not like we're squeaky clean over
Even
here.
if like there weren't riots going on, I was like, I don't know if I would let a stranger into my apartment.
Let me pat you down first before I let you in here.
But you got to also think about character experience. We watch the show through every character's eyes, so we think of the characters as a whole sometimes. And if you split them apart, you get this great position of argument between Madison and Travis. Because what Travis has experienced is the kindness of neighbors and the kindness of people. What Madison has experienced is one kid telling her how everything's going to hell and how things are going to be attacked, how first they take the banks, then they take the food, then they take the guns.
Right.
And then she's also shutting off the neighbors and shutting off the people. She hasn't experienced this kindness. She has the principle where she tries to be kind and ends up attacked. So in the future, when these two characters are together,
they're going to have two very different mentalities as to how to survive this.
And we're going to get that argument where somebody's knocking on the door, she's going to want to be like no, and he's going to be wanting to be like yes, because that's what saved him. And they're really gearing up these characters to have different experiences to lead us to better options in the future for storytelling.
I do think it's interesting also when we talked just a second about showrunners, writers, and directors, that we have, and they said they wanted to separate the show. So Dave Erickson, who's the other creator, the Sons of Anarchy guy, he was a big producer on Sons of Anarchy, which was obviously a very, very violent and serious show, a show that took itself very seriously. The one thing you can say about the original Walking Dead, the only detractor of that show, would be that it's a bit more disposable as a drama than I think some of the other like premier dramas on TV, say the Breaking Bads or the True Detectives of the world, the ones that are up for Emmys and winning all the time. Walking Dead is like serialized, so it's really great and it's entertaining and there's a lot of good to it, but I don't think most people wouldn't look at it and say this should win every Emmy, the performances should win all the writing and directing. This is a different show though, and you have a different showrunner. You have Dave Erickson, who Sons of Anarchy was a show that took itself a bit more seriously, and as you said, this show might be one where maybe these characters do matter in a different way, and they're not just food for zombies, and it is a human drama, and there's not as much gore. You just don't know what to expect, really.
Well, I think certain shows, though, in terms of like award-winning items, I think Game of Thrones is really the only one that's been able to break that barrier with anything that's in that fantasy realm. So both Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead is going to have to do something to that level to get recognition that way. And I know a lot of people talked about, Melissa McBride should have been up for stuff last year for her performance, but that's going on a little side rant.
I could go off on a little rant about how horror as a genre is generally looked down upon by a lot of people and by the Academy. And so I could make a whole rant about that, but we should probably move on.
Let's we started to touch on Madison a little bit in Tobias. Let's just talk through that experience at the school a little bit and their decision to leave the food behind, and then I
hope she put some in his backpack. What was up with that?
I know, he could have carried a box.
After you killed the zombie, you should be good.
Right.
I really hated her interaction with Tobias, though, because the principal's attacking her, and the first thing he does is jump in the way to save her, stab him over and over again, then fall down the stairs with him. The principal's attacking him. She's just
she's standing there. What do I do?
No, this pillow won't work.
Let me open the case too neatly. Let me not break it.
Pillow. Oh, I already looked at the pillow. 5 minutes later.
A lot of people too. We got a lot of comments because we all seemed to like her in the last episode, but a lot of people hated her. And this episode, I still like Kim Dickens an awful lot as an actress, so it's hard for me to separate completely from that. But I was yelling at her on screen a lot more this episode than the one before then, and for a whole bunch of reasons that way. So I think people maybe caught on to that aspect of her character before.
But I like seeing that moment because I felt like it was a real moment. We all have experience with the walkers in a sense. So if a walker's coming at us, okay, we know the kill shot is the head, but these are people who are experiencing it for the very first time. So our first time experiencing it, I'm sure we wouldn't know what to do. You know, we would have that moment, like you said. It would just be us trying to grasp onto straws.
This is the second person that she knows.
Yeah, this is a close personal friend of hers.
But Alicia even says it in the show. She's like, "Oh, the internet's out. The phone lines are out again. It's like an earthquake. When it happens, nobody knows what's going on."
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you live in California and you live with your family, you have a escape plan. If everyone's all over the place, hey guys, we're gonna meet here. We're all gonna meet here. Except when you have a
Something like that.
Yeah.
So is that when they say the desert? Is that
Yeah.
like their place to go to?
code word or something? Yeah.
Or are they just saying go to the desert and like
Maybe
Steven
they have
said? Where are they
I
going?
assume they have a relative in like Palmdale.
God, I hope so.
Something like
we-
Go
that.
to Palm Springs, guys.
That'd be lovely.
We don't know, but we have to assume that, you know, that the writers are smarter than than us, like, as far as like where this is going. When they say something general like that, I'm sure somebody looks over. I mean, this guy Marco Ramirez, he has like 8 credits or whatever, and this is the only episode of the season that he wrote on.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have Erickson who's involved, and you have Kirkman, but
Yeah.
I don't think that they would like review the script and be like, well, they're just generally going to the desert, and that's all it's going to
Yeah.
be. It'll be
Just go.
explained
I mean,
later.
I think that was just
For
more so to
sure.
push the story along. They needed to add some suspense, you know, and the cell phone going out. I mean, obviously that's kind of a cliche move. But yeah, I'm like, you guys can't text, we can't Facebook, you know,
Right.
like, wait, what's happening?
Again, emergency.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, the phone lines are going to go down. Which coincidentally, one time we were at horror nights, and because we were at horror night, like all the circuits were just jammed, and my mom was trying to get a hold of me and was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a disaster."
Which is interesting.
Your mom's fun too because she texts everybody that she knows who the messages from.
Oh, she sent a good
Mrs.
text.
Salinas is adorable.
Oh look, Apocalypse is trending on Twitter. Oh, my Twitter's out.
I actually do have a place in the desert I can go.
But that
I
was
just
an
go home.
But no, that was an interesting point because, you know, like you were saying, it's California earthquake, but I know a lot of people who don't have an escape plan. We all say that we should prepare, and we try our little best, and we have our little kits and stuff, but when it comes right down to it, if something like that were to really happen,
Stuff really hits
so
the fan.
many people,
Chickens
it would
without
hit the
their
fan. Yeah,
Yeah.
We wouldn't be prepared.
Because
We
like
wouldn't be prepared.
you'd almost have to just bring your kit with you everywhere because like if you have one at home, hopefully you're at home most of the time. But
Yeah.
what if you're at work? What if you're on site for a job? And then you're screwed.
I
Exactly.
actually do know a few people with legit zombie kits, though.
Well, yeah, now especially they have the kits on point. But I mean, for so many people, earthquake, if the power, like you said, with the power went down, we go ballistic.
Yeah,
We'd be-
and like that kit is only going to take you so far for so long.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I've got 2 bottles of water.
Yeah, I've got
Great,
3
dude.
crackers. Yeah,
Great.
let's munch on this for the next
and
9
a little
months.
space blanket.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, seriously.
That's going to save you.
Spam.
Exactly.
You just need spam. You're good.
Just
Spam keeps
spam.
forever. So I think it's...
Oh, I was just gonna say, just kind of like going off of that, it was so ominous seeing so many people like putting like tons and tons of water in
water,
their trunks,
yeah.
and just again because we're in California,
Yeah,
there's a drought.
there's a drought,
It's
yeah.
gonna be Mad Max in a couple months. Like that's just very ominous, especially seeing the cops do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's like what you were saying earlier with the authorities would tell us they're not telling anybody and they're taking all the water. Which is kind of interesting.
And it's an interesting
Protect and
commentary.
serve, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting commentary on everything that's gone on the last year or two with, as we said, but the only 3 black characters die in the first 2 episodes, and you have cops hoarding the water. Like, whether or not it's supposed to be direct, I'm sure there are bits and pieces of where you're supposed to put it out in the air and we're supposed to take note and think, oh, is this supposed to make us think a little bit? You know?
I can't blame the cop, honestly, though.
Yeah,
if the cops
no,
are
no.
closer to it, they know what's going on.
Yeah, and they
Get
have
the water
families.
and get out, because they know it's a
They have
true bar
families and lives
situation.
too.
And
yeah.
it does make me wonder because you know our hero Rick in the other show missed the zombie apocalypse. What would he have been like as a police officer if he had been in the thick of it? What would he have done the exact same thing?
He was in the
would
thick of it.
Well, no, he was in a coma.
He slept for the first
Oh, you mean Rick? Sorry, I thought you were talking about Shane.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no,
Yeah.
Shane actually did,
and he
you know,
did just that. Yeah.
and,
nuts.
and then we see what became of him
Mm-hmm.
and like what it turned him into. So it would be very interesting to see what would have happened had would Rick have been the type of police officer to put water in the trunk and leave people?
Shane did.
Yeah.
Right.
you always wonder about the noble male lead character in a story
Yeah.
like this in a disaster situation, because you see all of the general traits out of Travis that they're synonymous with characters in this situation. You know, it's very much trying to maintain control, constantly trying to assert himself, trying to be the level-headed, logical guy, right? And it's always just interesting when you see eventually in a crisis situation they're forced to make a decision they don't want to make, or they have to kill someone, or they have to save someone in this really horrible way.
Yeah.
And AMC loves their fall from grace stories.
Yeah, right,
They
right.
really do.
Well, we noticed too a little bit from Travis. He does seem to have a slight anger issue, and
Yeah.
I wonder if that'll be something that they'll explore. Or he's just getting angry because there's walkers all over the place. But I wonder if that's not a problem too, because he was very forceful into getting into the barber shop, and we've seen him on the phone with Chris, and it's not always incredibly pleasant.
I mean,
that way.
when his son was arguing with him, his response was, "Okay, fine, keep him."
Yeah.
Right.
It's not a
little
great way to
hothead.
deal with problems.
Exactly.
So it'll be very interesting to see when Madison and Travis reunite, because she's sort of becoming, she's showing her character as a bit of a weaker character, and he's showing as that assertive character, but they're going to experience this from two different sides. So if they do meet up in the desert, do you guys want to maybe talk about predictions?
Wherever the desert may
all right.
be.
Should we talk about where it's maybe going?
No, literally. Where are they going?
They're
Where
going
are
to
we
meet up at the
going?
Lancaster Mall.
I'm going to make the most unlikable prediction
In
ever.
2
You are?
weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, Steven's
hear
going
it.
to jump
Let's
in.
start with
first.
it. Let's start
Steven,
with it.
predictions, go.
I think within this season we'll see somebody try to rape Alicia, and I think
Oh,
they're gonna
no, I
have. I think
don't
they're gonna
want
have to kill a human, and I think that's gonna be
Big turning
another
point.
step for Nick.
That's very
I think
specific.
well, no, because if you really look at it, The Walking Dead has always been about how humans are the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So humanity is like really, they're rioting, they're doing all sorts of this unlawless stuff. I think to move a character into another place, there's only a few things I can think of with this character set that would cause them to need to kill a human being.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of them. And I think that could be something that drives the family apart or together in some ways. Because I hate to, yes, it's the most unlikely
No,
prediction,
it's just a
but
prediction about
you
TV
have
show.
to have to take what is happening in the world and how you're going to get the worst of humanity coming
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And when they're, because right now you look at Atlanta and you look at The Walking Dead, we dealt with that a lot and we dealt with those kind of things, but people were so few and far between. This is a lot of human beings who are not dead yet.
All together at
And
once.
there's no real law, there's nothing, and they're going to do whatever they had because all of them know they could die at any minute.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a sound prediction. I'll jump in with mine second, and I'm going to say I believe Ophelia is going to be an integral character in the story.
next
I think she's going to be a really, really strong character. I could tell by the way she handled herself in that situation. Her parents, I don't really know how important they're going to be long term, but I think she's going to be a pretty strong character, and that Liza's going to die. Those are my two.
In the next episode, do you think
Dark,
Liza
man.
dies?
No,
or do you have-
Liza will probably die in episode 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
5. He said he put a number on it. I disagree. I hate to put my money against on the live channel, which I know is not a safe channel to be on, but I feel like there'll be some sort of a rekindling or
I'm with you.
maybe
with you. I
not
think that's
necessarily
exactly
them as cliche as them like kissing and refinding that love, but I think that there will be some moments where they connect a little bit more with where
Before she
Eliza.
dies. It's totally possible.
let it go.
They could both be true. You're not disagreeing with me at all.
I'll let the jury still out on that one, but I think that there will be some sort of reconnecting with Liza, with Chris, and with Travis that could potentially or probably will affect his relationship with Madison. So I kind of predict that in this period where they are all trapped together, I think that they're going to work through a couple of things and they're going to figure out some things, but ultimately it's going to make them a little bit stronger, a little bit closer together, which could harp up some problems.
Do you ship the barber's daughter with Chris?
Ophelia?
Ophelia? Yeah.
She's too old for him.
She's too old for him.
I mean,
Isn't
hey,
he, like,
it's the
underage?
apocalypse. Anything
He's a
goes at this
child.
point, right?
We're seeing the
You're
worst of
attractive.
humanity.
Yeah, you're attractive and single. Huh?
Sponsored by
Alright.
Subway.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say I agree with you 100%. I think the main reason of putting this particular group together, being an ex-wife with her former husband and their son, I think the main reason of doing that is to create romantic tension. And if not to create romantic tension, then to have them at least achieve a mutual respect for one another that they had lost, at the very least. And to create problems, at worst.
Which would make it harder for Travis to choose between the Madison family and the Liza family.
What I
too.
don't know in terms of like what direction they're going to go, if they're going to have Travis get back together with the family that he's trying to make, and then they go on the run, or if both groups have to go on the run separately to try to meet up at this agreed upon location. The desert.
We don't know. They could be split up the entirety of the season.
That's true.
I mean, that could have,
And that's very true, and that they won't come back together for some time.
Yeah, you just don't know.
I agree with the rekindling stuff. I'll just make 2 predictions. One, I don't think they make it to said desert in this season. And my other one is, if we're going with who's going to die, I feel like the wife, Ophelia's mom, is going to, only because she has not been part of the press, but he has and she has. So I feel like she has not been in a lot of now maybe that's, maybe she's doing something else and she can't be there, but I feel like it's such a big show that she would be on there if she was going to be around for a while.
My last prediction is that, what's his name, the kid, Frank Delane, is a huge movie star, and we're watching literally the thing that puts him on the map right now.
Oh, are we talking about Nick?
Yeah, because
he's Johnny Depp. He's literally...
he has 9 credits, and like one of them is a Harry Potter movie, and then like there's this and like 5 other projects in the works. He's like, we're literally gonna remember the first season of Fear the Walking Dead was when the whole world learned about Frank Delane, and 2 years from now he's gonna be starring in like
he's gonna ask real life being killed
X-Men
off.
7 or something.
Kill me off because I need to be in the X-Men.
Yeah, something crazy. Like
I need to be Wolverine's adversary.
He'll be in Need for Speed 2.
Yeah, or he'll just play. Maybe he's gonna play Gambit because Channing Tatum's not in the movie anymore. I don't know. Let's get into sign-offs, guys.
Yeah.
That was a great episode. This was awesome to do Fear the Walking Dead episode 2. So
and thanks for joining us on the chat, guys. You guys were awesome tonight. A lot of great comments and feedback.
This was fun. I feel like we could have talked for 2 hours.
I want to do a special shout out to Chris Hawkins and at John Tarius, I think is how you say it, on Twitter. You guys are awesome. Thank you for using the hashtag.
Yeah, if the folks want to find you guys one more time, where can everybody be found? Steven?
Hey, you guys can find me on Twitter at Stephen Lemieux, STPHNLEMIUX, as well as doing the Graceland After Show and the Strain After Show. Also, check out an interview with Natalie Brown from the Strain tomorrow at 5 p.m. And hit that thumbs up on this video right now. See you guys next week.
And you can find me, Kristin Carole, on Twitter and Instagram, both at Kristin Carole 13. And I also just did interviews for Popcorn Talk for the Transporter Refuel, so that was cool. So check those out.
I'm Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter at TheMenguin. That's TheMenguin. I'm also on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz and our sister network Popcorn Talk. And I've also been writing articles for The Movie Chick with 2 Ks. Be sure to check those out. Tons of stuff. Follow me on Twitter to keep up with everything.
Hey guys, you can tweet at me, Ashley_Chatman, or Instagram, the Ashley Chatman. You can also check me out on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. for the live Narcos AfterBuzz TV show.
And I am Ben Bateman. You guys can find me on Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram. I'm an entertainment, sports, and Magic the Gathering host, and I do content for all of them. One of the shows I'm doing is on Popcorn Talk. It's an action movie show called Action Movie Anatomy that streams 12:30 on Wednesdays. Check that out on the Popcorn Talk Network, and otherwise we will see you guys next week. Same time, same place.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Labor Day weekend, guys.
2 weeks. Happy Labor Day.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
Labor
happy
Day.
barbecue day.
Happy fantasy football drafts. We'll
Just
see you
don't
guys
have
in
a
2 weeks.
barbecue with a
Red, white,
bouncy
and
castle
dead.
when it's
Don't have a barbecue at Terminus either.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Whatever Mary's cooking.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
From executive
Views
producers
expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.